Please welcome Alexander Ludwig. Come on, let's hear that. That's why. Welcome. Now it's an official welcome. Yeah. Grab a microphone. It's so good to have you.
Oh my gosh, this is so packed. Thank you guys so much. It means the world that you guys are all here.
And it's great that you're here too, so it works out really well. So
what a coincidence.
It is a coincidence. So this time is yours. If you want to talk a bit, tell some stories, take questions, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, my name is, for those of you who don't know, my name is Alexander Ludwig. I grew up in Vancouver, Canada. Currently relocated to Atlanta, Georgia. I'm shooting a new show there right now called Heels. Right on, we got a few people watching it. Right on, it's on Stars. So if you don't have it, you should get it. It's $5. But I'm very, very proud of this show. Acting is just what I've always known that I wanted to do. You know, for me, it was just something that I grew up. My mom was an actress back in the day. She did Friday the 13th, Part 8. And one day I stole her phone. I was 9 years old. I called her old agent and I asked for an audition. And the agent gave me a job and I started in commercials. I did a Harry Potter toy commercial and worked my way up from there. Movie of the week, small parts, extra roles. And, I worked as a kid and slowly, worked my way up as an adult. I did a show called Vikings, which I was really proud of.
Yeah.
And, thank you. A film called Lone Survivor, which was a really special to my heart because it's a true story about a Navy SEAL operation in Afghanistan. And I just finished a film in Spain that Guy Ritchie's directing, Jake Gyllenhaal starring in it, and that was an amazing experience. And I mean, I'm so grateful to get to come to these things, and to have all of your support. It's incredible to see, that, I got in this business just to tell stories. That's what I love to do. I love inspiring people. I'm not here to be a celebrity. I got in this business to be an actor, and I just love meeting you all. And I'm so grateful that each and every one of you spent your hard-earned money to come here today and celebrate in this business because it's my life. So thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. You mind if we get some questions from the audience?
Yeah, please ask away anything you guys want.
We'll start right down here. A little less enthusiasm. No, I'm fair.
Hi, it's me again. Okay, so I actually wrote it down so I don't mess it up. Okay, so we obviously love when you're on film and you get to be there on location and then it gets made into a film. And we know we don't know what you feel. That's the question. What is it like for you knowing that you're there being in character and once the film turns out and you watch it on TV like the rest of us, how is it for you versus how we feel when we fall in love with your character?
I think that for me, when I was a kid, I loved watching myself. It was so cool to see yourself on TV. You know what I mean? It was holy crap, this is so amazing. Even just the commercial, I'd be freaking out. And now it's not that I've become jaded in any way. I'm so grateful that I've made it to a level where, I'm able to do this as for a living. But for me, the really exciting part of it is actually just doing it, is actually being in front of a camera and being in character for me. So I do watch what I do probably once now. Just to see, because I do enjoy watching what the other castmates have done and how it all came together. But it's definitely a different experience because, I think just as artists, and I'm sure there's a lot of you in this room, you always want to do better. And I think that's, you're always trying to push the envelope and, oh man, I could have done that, or this doesn't look right. So that's why when I get to meet people who love the Hunger Games or Vikings or Heels, it's to me, it's just it warms my heart because it's this is what I set out to do was, I can't remember who said this, but it was Bob Dylan. He said, the greatest form of art is to inspire, and that's the greatest purpose of it. So I'm glad it touched everybody, and even in just the smallest of ways.
So I have a quick question. What actors inspired you?
I grew up, I'm a country boy at heart, even though I grew up in the city of Vancouver, Canada. I spent a lot of my time in the mountains and in Whistler, and That's just so like the films that I always connected with were like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Cool Hand Luke, Tombstone, A River Runs Through It, those kind of films. And Saving Private Ryan. Those films, it's funny because the industry's in such a funny place right now where there's never been more opportunity, but there's also just a lot of shit. Excuse my language, for lack of a better word. And it's hard for the good ones to rise to the top, and I do believe they will. Like Vikings took a minute. Like a lot of shows don't just pop off right away now. It takes years, but I've always felt that nowadays some of the greatest storytelling right now is on television. And that's not to say that there's not room for these amazing event films that we see, because there really are. There's some incredible event films, like whether it's a superhero film or Dune or something like that. You go to the theaters to see that, or even Batman and stuff like that. But the films that really inspired me to want to be an actor, it seems to me like right now a lot of that is on television. So that's kind of the world I'm trying to live in, is just do great stories, whether it's a film or TV.
Thank you.
Those epics.
Okay, got a question right down the middle here.
Down the middle.
All right, hello, Alexander.
Yeah,
Great
good
to
to
have
see
you
you
with
again.
us. What?
Good to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you again too, Alexander. Yep. Yeah, I met you at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what a coincidence.
And now he's here.
It's crazy. Oh, woo! All right. So the one question I've wanted to ask you was, what was both your favorite and most challenging part about working on the Hunger Games, along with the extensive training and working with the cast and crew, especially director Gary Ross and actress Jennifer Lawrence?
That was an amazing experience for me. I was 19 years old at the time, and it's one of the only films I've ever been on where, maybe Bad Boys for Life, the sequel I did, I had a feeling with that too, but just that you felt like you were on, it was kind of inevitable that people were going to show up and watch the film. And then very rarely does that happen. Hunger Games, the books had already come out and been a massive success, and people knew our names before the film had even come out. That's surreal. And that never happens. So that was exciting. I'd say the hardest part of it was just, it was my first experience in something that big. And it's a big weight on your shoulders as a kid. And you're kind of at summer camp, but, you have to remember that it's still a job. So I think just trying to ride that line of hey, I'm here to perform, not just, be friends and mess around. This is the big leagues now. So that was tough. And obviously Gary was such a formidable director and a formidable force. And I got very lucky though, because I felt like I made friends with pretty much everyone. I was there for 3.5 months, and, I wasn't the lead, but I wasn't just a principal. So for me, I was friends with Jen and Josh and Liam and Gary, and also I could be friends with everyone else. So I kind of got to move back and forth, which was great. It was an amazing experience. It truly was. And I look back on those days, and I'm very fond of them. And Jen was incredible. She's such a wonderful human being and very talented actor. But again, on every film, you're kind of like a ship in the night. It's like a traveling circus. You can have a very intense relationship with people for 3 months and then not see them for 10 years. And it's just one of those things. It's just this business. After I finished Vikings, I haven't seen some of those cast for already 2 years. But if I saw them tomorrow, I'd give them the biggest hug and we'd be back to being best friends, So, yeah.
Got a question right over here for you. Right over here.
Hey, Alexander, how's it going?
It's good, man. How you doing?
Great. Huge fans of the show. Heels.
Oh, thank you, dude.
How hard was it for you to transition into that role? I know it's got to be physically demanding, learning to take the bumps. And also, were you a wrestling fan as a kid or ever in your life? And if so, who were you a fan of?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for those of you who didn't grow up with wrestling or don't know what a bump is when you're basically falling flat onto the mat. And I think it's hilarious that they call it a mat, because there is no padding. It's they're 4x4 boards that are just across, and they have a little give in the middle. So I did not grow up watching wrestling religiously. However, when I did turn it on, I did watch it like every once in a while, and I loved it as a kid. I just didn't follow it. And one of the people I remember watching all the time was this guy named Edge, and Adam Copeland, and I thought he was incredible. And then, funny enough, this business is so crazy. I'm on Vikings, and of course, working with Adam. And then I end up doing heels. So, of course, I call Adam and ask for all his advice. And I will say that out of anything I've done, like Vikings was brutal. Like the weather was brutal, and like it was just like exhausting, but it was so fulfilling too. But physically, nothing comes close to heels in terms of the kind of conditioning we had to get our bodies in to be able to perform these stunts. Like we have to look like, especially my character has to look like a rock star in the ring. And, you know, I'm having to backflip off the top turnbuckle and take flat back bumps and, you know, get Germaned onto my top of my shoulders. My co-star Steven broke his back when we were filming. It's like, it was no joke. So I have an immense amount of respect for those athletes. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, and I can barely last 15 minutes, let alone 40. So it's an incredible thing that they do, and it's such a grind. And getting to be a part of telling that story has been so incredible. I love playing Ace Spade. The character I play in Heels is just, he's like a rock star wrestler and a complete disaster in life. And sadly, I can relate to that a lot. So,
All right. We're kind of keeping things right here in the middle, so we got another question for you.
Hello, thank you for being here. I'm going to put you on a spot here just for a little bit. So I was a corpsman with the Marines, and I understand the camaraderie with brothers in arms. So there was a lighthearted moment in the scene of Lone Survivor where your teammates called you up front, and you had to do a little dance. So for those of us, or those that have never seen the movie, I was wondering if you could reenact that for us.
I don't know if that's good. I don't think that's...
I swear, dude, I swear if I remembered it, I would. But it has been so long since I did that. But I will tell you this: it was the Napoleon Dynamite dance, and my little sister taught me how to do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I seriously don't remember it. Yeah. But
Now,
thank
he
you for your
remembers
service
it.
too, and I'm so glad that you like the film. Really,
Yeah.
it means the world. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Okay. And I have a quick question before the next one. The new film you're working on with Guy Ritchie, it doesn't even list a title. Can you tell us a little bit about that, or is it all hush-hush?
Well, what they have released is it's called The right now it's called The Interpreter. That could always change, but it's about it's set in Afghanistan, and it's about a sergeant who goes missing with his interpreter, and their kind of fight for survival while they're over there. And I play Jake's best friend and his superior, and I'm basically trying to help get him out.
The filming is done. It's just in production now, right?
Yeah, the filming's done. Yeah.
Nice. And when do you think that'll be coming out?
I don't know. I know that Guy turns around his films pretty quickly, so I would imagine within the year we should see something.
Awesome. All right, ready
We got
for
a couple
question
questions
on the
over here to the
far
right.
side of the room.
Well, welcome here. We're so happy to see you. My question is how do you get into the headspace for your characters? Because that's something we hear about a lot from actors, is getting in that headspace. You've performed so many varied characters. How do you sort of get into that vibe?
It's a great question. So, people, for those, is there anybody who wants to be an actor in this room or that likes acting? Or oh, amazing. Oh, right on. So there's a book I'll recommend. It's by an acting coach named Ivana Chubbuck. Ivana's my coach. She's worked with Travis Fimmel from Vikings, Brad Pitt, Halle Berry, Charlize Theron. She's incredible. And she takes basically what you call the method. I think a lot of people mistake the method for thinking that means that you just live in that character like Daniel Day-Lewis does. What he does is kind of his own take on that. But for me, Ivana has her own thing that she's taken from like Stanislavski and some of the great acting coaches in the world. And you basically use your present experiences and you work through those in your scene. So whereas Stanislavski would have said, if you're playing my sister, and I don't know you. There's no way you and I can create 29 years of a relationship just by pretending. So you should take from what you know and apply that to the scene. But what Yvonne has done is, and ingeniously I think, is take what's happening currently now and apply that to your scene. You know, so it's like, if I have to get my power back in a scene, who do I need to get my power back from in real life? Or who do I feel that I need to? And suddenly it's that much more urgent, and I'm that much more invested in it. And then, of course, I do my own personal things with each character and make it my own. But in terms of like intention, I always draw from a personal space, and I apply that to kind of every scene that I have.
So on the other side of that, have you any trouble getting out of a character once you're done?
No, early on in my career, like before I had really kind of, I'd say, fine-tuned like this, it's such a growing experience. You can always continue to grow. But I will remember there was one shoot I was doing, this like horror film, and it was just really taxing because it was just like I was playing such an evil dude, and it was like just dark every day for 3 weeks straight, and you were doing night shoots every day, so you'd be starting at 3 p.m. and finishing at 7 a.m., and it was just like grueling. And that was the only time where I got like really depressed, and I was just like, wow, like I can see how this can really take a toll on somebody mentally, and like I need to keep that in check. And like my whole thing is, when I arrive on set, like when the director says action, like that's when I'm doing what I'm paid to do. And when he says cut, I'm done, and I don't take that shit home, and that stays on set. And like it's easier said than done, and it can be hard, but like that's how I operate.
Nice. Yeah. Another question back over here to the right.
Far off the right,
so he can see you.
Hi, thank you for being here. My question is, what was it like working with Stephen Amell on Heels, and what advice did he give you since he's been in the ring before?
He's such a diva. No, I'm kidding. No, I love Steven. Steven is like, for those of you who don't know, Stephen Amell is my co-star in Heels. He also starred in a show called Arrow, which I'm sure some of you had seen, and he's great. And he's one of my close friends, and one thing I admire so much about him is he is a huge wrestling fan, and he's very committed to doing right by it. So I've actually been able to lean on him a lot as well for advice when we shoot, because he knows so much about the world, things that no matter how much research I do, there's this authentic things that come from just being a fan for life. So, I mean, he's family, and he will be forever.
Let's get about 3 or 4 more questions. One right over here, over there. Good, we got him. He'll take care of you right there.
One right here.
When's the next season of Hill starting?
I literally finished filming at midnight yesterday, and I got on a 5 a.m. flight and got here, and I'm here tomorrow.
Wow.
And then I leave at 10 p.m. and I work at 6 a.m. on Monday.
Right there.
I love James Harrison. I actually just called him but he's not here right now, unfortunately, or I would have loved to see him.
Who's your favorite actor that you've worked with?
That's a great question. My favorite actor that I've worked with. Well, it's hard because I feel like I think so much of like being able to grow into whatever it is that you're doing, that you're learning, or whatever it is you want to become is the ability to know when you don't know things, and you're willing to be open and humble and accept knowledge from different people. So like I worked with Anthony Hopkins, who to me is such an incredible actor, and I learned so much from him. But I would say just in terms of overall experience, like working with Travis Fimmel, who played my dad on Vikings, and Gustav Skarsgård, like who played Floki, like those are some of my closest friends, and also just inspired me as an actor greatly, and have had huge impacts on my career. So when I look at the most meaningful relationships, it's probably them. But there's always those moments where like I did Bad Boys with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and I grew up watching them. So suddenly you're on a set, and Jerry Bruckheimer is like one of the biggest producers in Hollywood, and I'm just going, how did this like little demon kid from Canada get here? Like what is happening? And those experiences are really amazing. And that's the beautiful thing about this business, is that every single person in this business starts from the bottom, and you can make it no matter who you are or what you're doing. I mean, I know so many people on my production on Heels who want to be producers and directors, and I'll bring them over to our director, who's a huge director in Hollywood. And I go, Pete, yeah, that's our director. I say, Pete, what did you do when you started? He's like, my first job in the business was wafting the fog for people, and now he's a big Hollywood director. And I go, Julie, what was your first job? And Julie's a huge producer. She produced Hell or High Water. She produces Heels. She produced a bunch of stuff. She's like, oh, I was an assistant, and that's the beautiful thing about this industry is that you never know who's going to have this wonderful career. And this shouldn't be the reason, but it's always important to remember this too, is just be gracious for where you're at and be kind to every single person you meet, because you never know what's going to happen down the future. And time again, it has always served me well,
Nice.
Another question right up front here.
First of all, I want to say thank you for being so humble and a real human being, because as we know, there's a few people here today that are actors.
Yeah,
that are
definitely this
not,
kid for sure.
Well,
I'm kidding.
But you know what I mean, that they're not really like down to earth and personable and sweet. I don't mean in a bad way, but wonderful, But I guess my question, we'll forgive him for that. No.
This is Alexander's mother, by the way.
Yeah, right.
But what I wanted to ask is, what do you do in your downtime? Not that you have a lot of it, but in your downtime, what do you like to do that the whole room should know about?
Wow. That's all the time we have.
And where does this take place, and at what time can we expect to be there?
I love one thing that I've always done is I love writing music. I grew up with country music, and I think it's another amazing form of storytelling. So for me, like, music has always been something that grounds me and brings me back. I think it's important for people to always have that thing, whatever it is that you can always rely on, that's going to center you. And that kind of transpired into something I never could have expected. I started taking flights to Nashville just to write country music because I loved it. It's like, wasn't expecting anything. And next thing I know, I'm on a plane with these music producers who are now my closest friends, and they loved me in a film I was doing, and they produce and play with Jason Aldean, who's one of the great country artists. And next thing I know, I'm signed with his label, and and it's just wild how the world works. I think when you honor what you want to do in your life and you pursue it and trust that it's never going to happen when you expect it to or how, I think the universe rewards you in ways you could never expect. Yeah.
So way on the left side of the room, we got time for a couple more questions, but you are going to be headed back to your table to sign after this, or photo ops, all that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so if you don't have time for a question, please hang out with Alexander, but we got a question right here.
Great to have you here in Pittsburgh.
Hey, man, thank you so much. I love your outfit.
Thank you. My question was, we watched Bjorn's life progression more than any other character in Vikings. Like, he started off in his early 20s, and died so later on in life. You had to constantly go from one stage in your life to another as that character. Was that something you had to consciously think of all the time?
Yeah, that was that's a great question too. Like, so when I got offered Vikings, I had just finished Lone Survivor and like Grown Ups 2, and they thought that I looked very similar to the young character that played Bjorn. And they said, look, we want you to come in and read for this role. But then they offered me the part, and I wasn't sure I should do it because it was before, like, I would say the golden age of television. And when you sign on to a TV show, it's like signing a sports contract, and that, like, they kind of own you for 6 years straight. And that's like a really scary thing to commit to. But when I heard the trajectory of that character, that he would go from boy to man to warrior to leader to king to legend, I was like, what other actor will ever have a chance to show this kind of an arc? And the beautiful thing about Vikings is that exactly what you said, they grew up with the character, and essentially they grew up with me, because I grew on that show as a human being and as an actor as well. And I went through all of those crazy twists and turns that you go through in your 20s, and trust me, Ireland was definitely not the best place to be for that. But no, the people there are incredible, and I'm actually really thankful that I went through all my crazy years there because, I was removed, and I don't know how it would have been if I wasn't, but luckily, thankfully, got it all together. But yeah, it's just the most incredible experience. And yes, it was something that I was aware of, and it was something that was only going to happen if Vikings was a success. So the more of you that watched it, the more chance I had to get to show this progression. And it was the greatest honor of my life, And a lot of kid actors, they don't really get to make that transition. So I was lucky to get to do that on that show.
And we have one last question right here. Once again, he's headed back to his table of sign. If you didn't have time for a question, please go hang out.
Thank you for coming, by the way.
Yeah, oh my God, thanks for having me.
I wanted to know, is there any funny moments that you can share with us on Vikings with the cast?
Yeah. Stuff you can never get away with in America. But, so Travis and I were just total idiots. And Travis played Ragnar, and we lived together for a time, and we were just such morons. We get in fights at bars and be idiots. And one day, I had just had enough of his it was relentless. Every day I'd walk out, and then there'd be some disgusting thing that I can't tell you here that was done to me. And I was like, I'm done. So one day we're so bad. We're shooting a scene in the woods, and Travis has to go to the bathroom. So he goes to a porta potty, and this extra who I know named Gavin, and Gavin's we knew our extras so well because they'd go to Game of Thrones and they'd come back to Vikings. It's they knew that I was just so fed up with this, and they're like, Alexander, now's your chance. And I was like, you're so right. And I literally ran full speed and kicked the porta potty over inside. And he's like Spider-Man at the top of the porta potty. And thankfully it didn't get all over him, but it got all over his shoes. And I should have pushed it with the door on the ground, but I didn't. So he was able to crawl out, and he was just like, and I was like, and he never did anything ever again. So,
Lesson learned. Once again, thank you so much for coming out. Let's give it up.
Thanks, guys.
Alexander
Thank you so
Ludwig.
much.
What a great Q&A. Do better than that.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is John Glover, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Lionel Luther recommends it. Have some fun. Follow your fandom.